Dr. Jimmy Walters was going to join us to talk about his book, Batter Up, on two types of heroes, sports greats and dads. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
So, the sports fan I know is James Feely in Springfield, Massachusetts, and I kind of think you Mets fan all know one another. So, so you might want to do a shout out to him. Your love of baseball goes way, way back to your childhood. Tell us about that and the sharing of sports events, how it helps build family memories.
Yeah, thank you. So I am a Mets fan, but I do feel like I have much in common with Red Sox fans because of a mutual dislike for the Yankees. So there's that in common. I was a young child when the Mets won in 1986 against your Red Sox, but I don't remember it. I was too young. Yeah. But I do have wonderful memories of going to games with my dad and other family members, and especially as I grew up in those teenage years. It was at Shea Stadium where we bonded. It's where we were able to talk about the game, but also talk about life. And now with young children of my own, I'm trying to do the same thing. I think baseball presents so many wonderful traditions similar to our church, and it connects us from generation to generation. So we're Mets fans because my grandfather was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. In Ebbets Field in Brooklyn. And when the Dodgers and the Giants went to California, he was lost without a National League team until the Mets were founded in 1962. And so there's that connection that just goes through generation to generation, and it links us in the same way that our faith does.
Sure.
For many years, Doctor, I worked in our retreat office here in the Archdiocese of Boston, and my colleagues would always not make fun of me, but I was sort of named the king of subtitles. we would name the retreat, but there'd always be a subtitle, because I truly believed that if you wanted people to notice your work, whether it was a book or a retreat, subtitles are important. And the subtitle of your book is Answering the Call of Faith and Fatherhood. I like the subtitle. I like the alliteration. How did you come up with that? I know in every chapter of the book, you begin with sort of a quote and a piece of scripture. Faith and fatherhood. How did you come up with that idea, and how did you carry it out?
Yes. So I think it's important that we look at fatherhood as a vocation, a calling from God. And that theme runs throughout the book. And I hope that those who are dads, those who hope to one day be fathers, or anyone who has somebody entrusted to their care, that they see that as a calling. And so that was a key theme that runs throughout. And then looking at faith and fatherhood as the way that we live out that vocation. Every chapter is an inning, and I try to address different aspects of the vocation, of the calling. I have two young girls, so there are many chapters, God willing, left to be written from later in life. But I try to capture the challenges of a vocation. Most vocations have those moments when you need to turn to God in a deeper and more intense way. And certainly I talk about the birth of my children. My youngest, Lily, was born in the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and I had to turn to God in a way I never did previously. It was my relationship with Christ was strengthened because of that difficult time. And I also talk about the reliance on community, your partner, and it being your greatest teammate, and also the idea of doing it as looking at fatherhood not as just what you do, but who you are, and that's God's beloved. And I think that's such an important piece for fathers, because so often there's this pressure to do all these many different things, and to move away from what we do, but to just who we are. And that goes back to the idea of vocation.
That's so true. And, many of the correlations between our spiritual life and sports also exist in the rituals, right? Of course, here in Boston, Sweet Caroline, whether you're a fan or not, we all know what we're supposed to be singing, And you talk, of course, about the Bill Buckner error, and we talk about, and in the book you also talk about how errors can be these instrumental divine encounters, and you use that phrase, little deaths. So can you wrap that all up for us?
I'll try. I think there's that great Leonard Cohen quote where it's where I'm paraphrasing, where in the crack is where the light enters in. And I think there's those moments in life when we have those little deaths, when we're challenged in a different way. In the Bill Buckner reference, I talk about how the Boston fans had a chance to celebrate him later in his life before he died. And in those moments where, who could have predicted all that would have happened? And certainly the Red Sox success has helped kind of some of that healing. But in our lives, there's always opportunities for reconciliation. There's always opportunities to reconnect with God. And those little deaths are ways for us to do that. So I think of, COVID had many little deaths for many of us, and some big deaths as well. I also think of my own, I talk in the book about my anxiety and something that I only started to grapple with during COVID. And in some ways, that was a little death that I needed more support and more help with. And I'm so much closer to God and stronger because of it. In the moment, it did not feel like it. Just like a losing streak in a baseball season, it doesn't feel very good. But when you overcome it and when you work through it with the support of many wonderful people living their vocations, you really have that greater sense of God in your life.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
You are a Mets fan. I don't know if I've really ever met a real Mets fan. Doctor, tell us about your love of the Mets, how that happened, and how you continue to allow it to occur in your everyday life. And also tell us how we can get a copy of the book, Batter Up, Answering the Call of Faith and Fatherhood.
Sure. So pray for me, Father, because we are doing very well right now, but we tend to fall apart when we get into the second half. So keep us in your prayers.
Okay.
So as I said before, my grandfather was a Dodger fan. My dad, he liked both the Mets and the Yankees, but I think growing up in the 80s when the Mets were really good helped with that. But, since we haven't won a World Series, so I joke that the Mets keep me humble. I think it helps me look at not just the outcome, but looking at the ups and downs of a season, those moments of sharing with one another. And I love the team. Mike Piazza, when he became a Met in the late 1990s, really kind of sent my fandom to a whole new place. When we had our firstborn, we named her Shea, partly after Shea Stadium, because it was such a special place to me. And my wife is just a saint, so she went along with it. And I think it's just a part of who I am, and it's a part of my family and my friends, and it's a way to connect with other people. And if the Mets ever win, I don't know what I will do with myself. I mean, it just feel. And as I'm going to be 40 this year, so I pray I have another 40, 50 years. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. So now my prayer is starting to say, I hope my daughters get to see the Mets win. But fingers crossed for that. And you can get the book anywhere. Certainly Amazon's probably the easiest way. Also from the publisher's website, New City Press, and also Barnes & Noble.
Okay.
Great. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us. Good luck to the Mets, and good luck to the Sox, too. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.